Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm TechShider and presenting. The 2022 Asus ROG StrixScar 15 is an adaptable presentation and gaming standard size PC. And one of the better esteemed choices in its group, as well as a genuinely minimized and lightweight item for what it is. In our tests, it played out somewhat quicker than the bigger 2022 Scar 17, and altogether quicker than the past 2021 age in view of AMD equipment. On account of the refreshed equipment and the execution of a mux. Then again, the parts actually run hot inside on the stock turbo mode, particularly on the GPU side now. The productivity of the Intel Alder Lake stage passes on to want. And there are still a few ergonomic characteristics that you'll need to acknowledge whether you'll settle on one of these. The good. Decent plan, strong form quality and refined RGB components. Great sources of info and I/O. Great QHD 240Hz screen. However, try to test the variety consistency. Fundamentally more remarkable than the 2021 age. Adaptable manual profile in Armory crate. 90-watt battery, however restricted runtimes. Punchy sound with quad speakers. The bad. Smudgy inside and annoyingly positioned status LEDs. No card peruser. Camera or biometrics. High GPU temperatures with games and requesting loads. Can be changed in manual mode. More limited battery duration than the 2021 AMD model. The ROG StrixScar 15 is Asus top-level execution or gaming PC. A regular 15-inch PC intended for a positive involvement with your jobs and games. I've enjoyed the most recent couple of weeks with the 2022 Scar 15 update. And I've accumulated my impressions down underneath. Going over every one of the significant perspectives that you ought to factor in your choice. While checking out at this new ROG Scar 15 notepad. Contrasted with the past Scar 15 age, the 2022 model is based on the most recent Intel 12th Gen equipment stage. And the most recent NVIDIA RTX 3000 Ti illustrations chips. Asus additionally knocked the power settings of the parts. Added a mux, worked on the cooling to a modest quantity, as well as refreshed the showcase, I/O, and console. Outwardly, however, the 2022 and 2022 Scar 15s are practically indistinguishable. And that implies a portion of the ergonomic particularities detailed last year have not been tended to. This is basically the best esteemed 2022 Scar 15 design accessible. Matching the Core i9 processor with the RTX 3070 Ti and QHD 240Hz screen. Circle back to audits on other GPU designs in the following a long time. For the top-level RTX 3080 Ti model, Scar 15 G533ZX. And ideally for the base-level RTX 3060, Scar 15 RTX G533ZM, model also. Plan and development. The 15-inch Scar 15 is a more conservative and lighter variety of the Scar 17 that we previously talked about inside and out in this different survey. You'll likewise track down one next to the other photos of the two in this past glance at the 2022 ROG StrixScar arrangement. So I'm not going over all the plan and development particularities of this frame indeed. I will specify the significant angles to consider, however. To go through the articles connected above, despite the fact that you ought to. On the positive side, the Scar 15 is a very much constructed item and has a novel plan, a pleasant blend of clean style and RGB components. All actually controllable through programming. It additionally offers great ergonomics and a fair choice of ports, the majority of them concealed on the back edge. Behind the screen. On top of these, Asus tried to carry out legitimate information sources, solid pivots, and strong speakers. As well as an able warm plan for a smaller 15-inch suspension. You can perceive this SCAR 15 is a reduced impression from the bezels around the screen. The skeleton gets an additional amount on the back, however, for the ports, speakers, and cooling module, And everything amounts to an absolute weight of around 5.1 lbs for this tried setup. Which isn't terrible for a standard PC. Then again, the plastic inside of this plan is amazingly smudgy, so you'll continually need to clean it off. I hate the brilliant status LEDs situated right under the showcase. The consistently on red light in the power button, the way that the whole right side is saved for the somewhat futile keystone. Or of that cut in the screen's base bezel which shows what's behind the PC. Generally speaking, the Scar 15 plan is a pleasant and sturdily made item. Yet with many idiosyncrasies, so ensure you're okay with them prior to settling on it. Console and trackpad. Asus moved back to a standard elastic arch console on the 2022 ROG Scar 15. After last year's trial with the optomechanical switches wasn't gotten well indeed. I'm happy they got it done. This console is truth be told basically the same as the one on the past gen ROG Strix G15 series. With a primary deck of standard size keys, isolated more modest bolts, and additional media capacities at the right and at the upper left. I would have liked assuming Asus carried out home and end or page up or page down in that right additional section. Rather than media controls, yet generally speaking this is a decent format. There's no committed numpad, yet contact numpad-like usefulness is incorporated inside the clickpad. I love this kind of improved on format without a numpad which focuses the console and clickpad in the frame. To the extent that the composing experience goes, this is a fine ordinary typer. The keycaps feel smooth to the touch, the stroke profundity is perfect. And the input is very great, regardless of whether maybe somewhat soft. It considers quick composing paces and common citations. The keys are likewise RGB illuminated, with per key control and different impacts selectable in Armory Crate. An Aura Creator application. The LEDs are adequately brilliant and uniform. With some light crawling from under the keycaps from a more extreme point, yet not in an observable way. Notwithstanding, the F1 F12 composing on the top keys isn't lit, making them hard to sort out in obscurity. For mouse, Asus kept the enormous glass clickpad they presented previously. It's extensive, smooth to the touch, and exact. The actual snaps are still somewhat inconvenient. However, the surface doesn't shake as observably as on the Scar 17 with firmer taps in the lower half. Concerning biometrics, there are still none on this 2022 ROG Strix Scar 15. Asus offers two screen choices for this 2022 ROG Scar 15. All 15.6-inch, 16:9, matte and non-contact. FHD 300 Hz 3 milliseconds with 300 plus nits of splendor and 100% sRGB tones. QHD 240 Hz 3 milliseconds with 300 plus nits of splendor and 100% DCI-P3 tones. We have the QHD board choice on this unit. Beside the way that this board doesn't get extremely brilliant, nothing remains to be whined about. This is astounding for everyday and proficient use for those of you needing wide range inclusion and prevalent variety exactness. It's likewise a strong choice for gaming, with quick invigorate rates and reaction times. Yet there's no G-Sync executed, just adaptive sync to forestall tearing. This is the thing we got in our tests, with the X-Rite i1 Display Pro sensor. Board hardware ID, BOBO 0A55, NE156QHMNZ2. Inclusion, 99.9%. sRGB, 85.7% Adobe RGB, 99.3% DCI-P3. Estimated gamma, 2.08. Max brilliance in the screen, 339.71 album per M2 on power. Min splendor in the screen, 11.38 disc per M2 on power. Contrast at max brilliance, 1165:1. White point, 7300K. Dark on max splendor, 0.29 disc per M2. PWM, no. This board is somewhat more brilliant than the one tried on the Scar 17. However, it likewise came less fortunate aligned out of the case. An adjustment run tends to the somewhat slanted gamma and white point. When aligned, the board winds up uniform in glow, yet for certain genuine disparities in variety consistency in our tests. In light of previous involvement in QHD 100% DCI-P3 boards, I don't think this is what you ought to expect with the retail units. And I trust Asus can sort out the quality control with the retail units, as messed up consistency would invalidate the point of this wide range board for makers. On the off chance that you're getting this for variety precise work, try to appropriately test this board with an adjustment apparatus, and request a return if not satisfactory. Then again, I saw practically no light draining around the edges, and the board doesn't utilize PWM at lower splendor levels. Hardware and performance. Our test model is a higher spec design of the Asus ROG StrixScar 15, codename G533ZW. Based on an Intel Core i9-12900H processor. 32 GB of DDR5-4800 memory in double channel, 2 TB of quick SSD stockpiling. And double illustrations, the NVIDIA RTX 3070 Ti GPU with 8 GB of VRAM and the Iris Xe GPU incorporated inside the Intel processor. Spec-wise, the 2022 Asus ROG Scar 15 is based on the most recent Intel and NVIDIA equipment accessible to date. The Core i9-12900H is an Intel Alder Lake 12th Gen processor, with 14 cores and 20 threads. It is a half-breed plan with 6 high-performance hyper-threaded cores, and an additional 8 efficiency centers, cooperating or separate in view of interest. The plan of this Scar likewise permits the processor to run at up to 110 Watt of supported power in requesting CPU loads, on the turbo profile. For the GPU, the 2022 Scar 15 series is accessible with RTX 3000 and RTX 3000 Ti designs chips. What we have on this example is the RTX 3070 Ti running at up to 150W with dynamic boost in upheld games and applications. For the RAM and capacity choices, the PC offers 2 available memory DIMMs and 2 M.2 SSD spaces. The unit transported with 32 GB of DDR5-4800 RAM in double channel and a fast PCIe 4.0 Samsung SSD. Getting to the parts expects to spring up the backboard, which is held set up by several Phillips screws. Be extra cautious when you take out the baseboard. However, as it's connected to the mainboard by 2 strips that power the LED strips, pulling too hard could make those distinction. No problem assuming they do, you'll simply have to reslot the connectors in their place. Inside you'll track down every one of the parts, the enormous battery, and the warm module. Everything is stuffed firmly on this smaller Scar 15 skeleton, with no space left unused. Thanks for watching my friends, and please like my video and subscribe if you new to my channel. God bless.